Welcome to the REX-Rated Podast, episode number 1. We're doing it, guys. We have officially started our podcast. This is our first episode.
Super excited. It's been a journey we've been on, but we're super excited to be here and super excited to be putting one of these out every week.
Yep. And why should you guys listen to the podcast? Why should they listen to it?
For them to listen to the podcast, for anybody to listen to it, it will give them an inside view of our lives, of what we are doing, what we have done, what we've came from and where we are now, and they will be able to see our journey as we go, so anybody looking to do business with us in the future or currently doing business with us, I think it'd be a great way for them to understand more about us and what we are doing, where we came from, because a lot of times the people we're doing business with are clear across the United States. We've never seen each other in person, but this gives a lot more of a live view of us as what we're doing in our lives.
Absolutely. And I don't know about you guys, but it's just so much easier to have a conversation versus like typing it up in a post or something. The words just flow easier, and I feel like you can just share a little more context and details. So that's what this kind of is, just sharing about us as a couple, as a family, our business, our journey, what our goals are. And if you guys are wondering, well, what is that journey? Who are you guys? What are you into? Well, that's what this episode is about.
Yeah, so kind of this episode, we'll just kind of give a 1,000-mile view of what we're doing, what we have done, and then in the next episodes, the coming episodes, we will start breaking things down a little bit more and getting a little more granular into what we're doing actually. But this one will be a great overview of everything for someone to watch it and just kind of get a great overview of what we're doing.
Yeah, just kind of a good introduction podcast. It'll be super fun. So we're going to start it off by getting to know Rex a little bit. Where was he born? How big of a family was he in? What did he do? What's your story?
Yeah, so I was born in Nampa, Idaho, and I was born in a family of, I have 11 siblings, same mom, same dad, an amazing family. Born in Nampa, Idaho, grew up there. My mother passed away when I was 11, and I am I guess there's 4 siblings younger than me, so I'm kind of on the lower than middle side, but lived there until I was about 17, and then we moved to Weiser, Idaho, up there, and bought a bunch of acreage, moved out in the country, a lot farther out in the country, and I lived there for 7 years. And during that time, I built and sold several small businesses. I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, I guess, in a sense. None of my siblings really ever had W-2 jobs. They started their own businesses once they hit 18 years old. A lot of them were based around like the lawn care, landscaping type industry. And so were mine. I had a lawn care business that I built and sold. I had a landscaping business that I built and sold, a tree service business that I later built and sold. And during that time of building and selling businesses, it taught me a lot about consistency and the importance of consistency when building a business. When I had a lawn care business and I mowed 150 to 170 yards per week, that was a full day of work every day, 5 days a week. And I couldn't get behind, so I had to be consistent on getting started at 6:30 to 7 o'clock in the morning on the job to get my work done every day that I needed to get done every day. And then, so it taught me so much of how to run a business, how to communicate with customers, how to have that customer relationship, you know, just, it taught me a lot. Very thankful for those times. And now I will turn it over to Katrina.
Well, wait a second. I mean, we got to give a little more detail. Well, when you were driving, you got to tell people how you were you were driving an hour and a half each way to work every day because all of your lawns were in Nampa, which is a lot closer to Boise, and then Weezer's just a little town way out there.
Yeah, so when I moved, I had already had a clientele in the Nampa area. So I bought out a business that was there. Then I also built onto the business. And the town where I lived in, or the small town that we lived outside of, was just a small town. There wasn't the work there that I needed to stay busy. So I drove an hour and a half each way to work 5 days a week. And in doing that, there's a thing of just commitment. You have to be committed to it. And I did it for 2 summers before I finally sold the business and started up another business.
Yeah. And growing up, what would you say your lifestyle was? Were you a city kid? Were you a country kid?
Yeah, so growing up, we grew up on a farm. It's a smaller farm. I didn't grow up with a TV in the house. We never had a TV. We never had a computer. We didn't even have a radio in the house for most of my growing up years. You know, we was just very much farm kids. We did everything outdoors. We learned to create stuff when we wanted to go have fun and do things. We had to create it. We couldn't turn on the TV and watch a movie. So that was definitely, grew up more country.
I know you guys have you've told me lots of cool stories about as little kids, you and your brothers were very inventive and building all sorts of things and building bows and arrows and shooting the birds out of the trees. And
yeah, we was always wanted to be Robin Hood.
And when did you buy, or when did you develop your first business? Like, what was the time frame there? Like, at what age did you start going to work or start working?
Yeah, so I started working when I was, I don't know, 11 years old, kind of.
And
not
what was
consistent.
that? Like, what
It was more in the evening or the afternoon.
But what did you do?
So I would go out with my brothers or my dad and help them trim shrubs and clean up and stuff like that.
And they had their own businesses.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. And then what was the transition from there?
Yeah. So when at 10 years old, it wasn't consistent. I didn't do it like consistently. It was just kind of here and there. I didn't get to doing it consistent until I was probably 13, 14 before I was working full time. So I grew up, I was homeschooled.
Mm-hmm.
So after we was done with school, we could go out and work in the afternoons, you know. So once I was 13, 14, I didn't do school past probably 12, 13. I think I was.
Well, and then your mom died too, so that was also had a part in it, right? As far as like not
Yes,
finishing school earlier.
we was always raised to finish our school earlier than most people, because being homeschooled, we was able to go through stuff more quickly than in the public school system.
So when did you get your own business? When did you start doing your own stuff?
So at 18 years, I turned 18 in the fall, so it'd been the spring after I turned 18 is when I started doing my own.
Okay. Yeah. And for me, I was born in South Dakota, just in a little tiny town, Aberdeen, South Dakota, Mansfield, Aberdeen. And I have 8 siblings, so there's 9 kids, same mom and dad. And I think when I was, I don't remember, 5, 6, I really don't remember South Dakota a ton. We moved from there when I was pretty young, and we moved to Montana. My dad was a bookkeeper. He had his own business. So we moved to Montana to be closer to the ranch. There was a ranch there, and he was doing their book work. So they wanted him to move closer to there to just, I guess, make it more practical for work and stuff. And so we moved to Montana to on that ranch, and we're there for several years. And then that job ended, and we moved to family and church offered us a place to stay. So we moved to Lodge Grass, which is a little Indian reservation in Montana, about 90 miles south of Billings. Always all those places way out in the country, no neighbors for miles around. You couldn't see any other houses. And yeah, we always had all the horses, the cows. Us kids would get bottle calves and raise them up and sell them. And then when I was 13, I don't remember.
It would have had to have been somewhere around there.
We moved to Idaho, and so I've been in Idaho for probably 10.
I think you've been in here for 13 years.
So maybe we moved to Idaho when I was 10, but well, 10, 12, somewhere in there. But yeah, my family moved to Idaho, and that's when my dad decided to. He was always more of the entrepreneurial mindset, and he decided that he wanted to start a family business. So my family started up a small farm dairy and like meat and cheese, yogurt, eggs. We had chickens. So we were focusing on like the all natural, non-GMO, that kind of stuff, and just providing like a really good product for our customers, because our family wanted to eat healthy. Our family wanted to grow our own food, produce our own food, and eat it. And that was the vision for my dad, to help other people have access to those products. And so we grew that business. I think my family is like the number one farm in Idaho now that does like provides just that all around product, anywhere from milk to meat to honey, eggs, all this stuff. So I was in charge of the goats. I milked the goats and did everything with them. And am I forgetting stuff? I'm trying to remember my life.
I think you're covering stuff pretty well.
I guess I did. When I was 18, I went and worked on a ranch in Nevada for some friends, and that was super fun. But that's kind of a very broad view of my life.
Tell me a little bit more about the transition from going from working on the farm to working on a ranch many miles in the middle of nowhere. You guys were clear up in Nevada somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me that transition. How did that help you as an individual, as a person? How did that help you bring you to where you are today?
Yeah, it was a growing experience. I never had a job for anyone. I never, yeah, like you ran your own business, right? Like I never experienced that. Like I was in a sense working for my family. Like had my I had my role in the business, but I would say, ultimately it was my dad running his business, right? And so for me to go actually be responsible for myself and go work for my friends, that was a huge growing experience that pushed me in a lot of ways and just grew me as an individual. And then I felt like um, just taught me a lot of practical life skills. But I loved it. I've always loved the ranch. Okay, so you got your farm and you've got your ranch, right? And I know people are going to be like, well, they're the same thing. So farming is more like you're working the land. You know, you've got your dairy animals or your chickens and stuff. Ranching is more like you got your horses and your cattle and
producing meat more. A lot of your ranchers they're producing meat for the industry.
yeah.
And your farms produce the hay,
Yep.
the grain,
Crops.
the dairy produces milk and eggs and cheese and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's kind of the three different things. There's dairy, farm, and there's ranch,
Well, what I loved was the horses and the cattle and the dogs and getting out there and working them and stuff. I had a border collie and I absolutely love working dogs. It is just a huge passion and love of mine. So I loved it. I loved going. I mean, it was so beautiful, just clear up there, way up high in the mountains, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. And it was a transition. Like I didn't have cell service for weeks at a time, and honestly, that was good. I was probably more productive than I've ever been in my life, but also just you really connect with what's around you, and just have time to think. And it was really fun, just as an 18-year-old, I got to go out and experience a job and, you know, a dream job of mine. And I'll forever appreciate my friends who gave me that opportunity and put up with me and kind of helped me along and adopted me as one of their own for that time.
Yeah. And then, yeah, you would have been 18, 19 at that time.
So yeah, during that time is when me and Rex met, because I came back from my sister's wedding and we met at her wedding and dated for just a few months.
We met in August of, I don't even remember the year now. It's been 4 years.
Yeah, a little over 4 years.
Yeah.
So it'd been like 2020.
Yep, right.
Well,
2019.
Just hang on a second as we do math here.
August of 2019, I believe.
Yeah.
And then we got married in February.
The first week of February
of 2020.
Yep. So I mean, that was fast. That was, yeah, I felt like it was like just a lot of transitions for me because, I did one thing for my whole life up until I was 18. And then I went and got a job, which was that was a huge transition for me. Wasn't used to that. And then I met Rex and we got married. And then I got pregnant just a couple, 2-3 months after that. So this is one life change after the other. And yeah, had our first daughter, Katie.
Yeah, so when we got married, we moved actually into a fifth wheel RV because I grew up in the mindset of don't ever get into debt, don't ever borrow money, don't ever go get a bank loan on a house. So I couldn't go buy a house. I had some money set aside.
You had no credit because
I'd never even had a credit card, so I had no credit. So I couldn't go buy a house, but I was able to go down and cash out an RV, a used RV that we bought. And then we parked it on my brother's property there in Weiser. So my dad had 10 acres.
Because, yeah, Rex was living with his dad.
So I lived at home still at that point. I lived with my dad still, and he had 10 acres. And then one of my brothers owned 45 acres right next to it. So we bought the RV and we was able to.
Because, we couldn't even really find a rental because we had no credit. I had no credit. My family was also a lot that way. And so you paid for it in cash or you didn't buy it at all. And so, yeah, credit was completely foreign to me.
And most landlords out there won't rent to someone without credit. So we was blessed to be able to park a camper on that property. We had no running water there. We did have electricity. We didn't have sewer hookups, so that was something we had to work with. We had to haul water in and stuff like that.
Rex had a skid steer, so I mean, remember the days, twice a week usually, go put the tank in the skid steer and go down to his dad's faucet and fill it up and bring it back and drain it into the camper water, and then empty the sewer as often as you would empty it out. Nobody likes that job, right? So they put it off.
So it was, yeah, we was blessed to be where we was, but we didn't have the understanding that it could be any different.
Well, and just, to throw a little bit more details in there, we ended up buying that 45 acres. What was it? A
year later, we ended up buying that 45 acres from my brother
on seller finance.
Yep.
So that happened, and there's so much. I mean, we're probably kind of going into too much detail here for this episode, but we'll definitely touch more on these details later. But I mean, we were so on the 45 acres is what we were doing when we first got married. Like I mentioned, my love for border collies, and Rex fell in love with border collies as well, and we started trialing. So our dogs are trained to work cattle and sheep. So we would go all around the United States, and we would compete in dog trials, like kind of like a rodeo, where we would get points, money, awards based off of how well our dogs work the cattle or sheep through obstacles, like putting them in pens or putting them through an alleyway, sorting them, just all the aspects of ranch work, just kind of make a competition out of it, make it fun. So that's like all we did probably for the first couple of years.
I did have a business that I was running a landscaping business and a tree service business. But the border collies is really where we focused on there.
And we wanted to make a living out of that. Like that was just where our heart really was. And we were doing it together.
That's what we loved. We loved doing it together. And
so we made it go. We tried to make a go of it. But then
we could have made a living doing it, but it would have been a tough living. We lived in an RV still at the time, and our thoughts were, how will we ever get into a house? How will we ever build a house?
Like, because the dogs would have supported us, but they wouldn't have made enough money to go buy a house, build a house. And so
we could have got by, but we couldn't have actually got better stuff. We couldn't have kept investing into our stuff and getting a house and getting better this and better that. We could have scraped by as doing the dogs, but we really, really enjoyed the training and the competing with them. We won a lot of money. We won a lot of buckles and everything. And then
and just to insert this a little bit, because it'll play into future episodes, but we had never, I think both of us had always wanted to compete, like really bad as little kids. Rex wanted to rodeo. I wanted to go show goats at fairs or different shows. I loved my animals, and I wanted to take them and go to competitions with them. And so the dogs was kind of a childhood dream come to fruition. And we'd never done anything like that before. We'd never trained dogs like that before. And we proved to ourselves that we could do it. And we were very successful at it. We did very well. And we had some awesome dogs, awesome partners.
Yeah.
To go back to that, as far as like what you were talking about, we decided, like, okay, this isn't like, we need to start focusing on our family, right? I had a baby, which we took her all over to our dog trials, and she loved that. But we needed to focus on our family and we just needed to build something for our family and get into a house and whatnot. So you got really focused on your business.
Yeah, so I got really focused on my business, and I'd partnered up with a brother of mine and just decided we was going to make a multi-million-dollar business out of the landscaping business. And we started building it. We started growing it. It was good. So I had some friends that were trying to get me to read a book that they said it was such a good book. And up until that point, I didn't have any knowledge of investing. I didn't even know really what investing was or how to even do it. So I still had a tree service business. So I was out trimming trees, and I read this book or listened to it through audio.
He had
And
a helmet.
so I had like a helmet that had the earmuffs and stuff on it that had audio into it. And so I listened to this book, Robert Kiyosaki book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And
Everybody's got to start with that one.
And that book it totally changed my mindset about money in that however long that book was.
Can you just give like a little like one liner of how like
make your money work for you?
and
I have always only worked for my money. I had never made my money work for me.
Can you give me just a tiny example of that?
Of making your money work. Yeah. So if I have $10,000 there, or if I have $1,000 there, if I invest that $1,000 into, or $10,000 into real estate or into the stock market, invest it into something, then it'll sit there and pay me interest back. It'll grow. So if I invest it into real estate, which I'm more familiar with, I can invest it, and that person that I invest it with will pay me a return on my money.
So now your money's out there working for you. It's out there holding down a job and bringing back income for you.
Yeah. So like even up to today, like we're sitting here recording this podcast, and I have money out there that's working for me.
Yeah. Instead of because with your business, it was just very hands-on, very physical, and in order to make money, you had to be out there working for it.
Yeah, and even the worst part was I had never invested my money, because at times I had a little bit of money saved up, but I didn't invest it. And if I would have invested it, that money would have grew by itself without me doing anything.
Instead, it was just losing value because
it
inflation.
was just shrinking.
Yeah.
Instead,
So you so to recap just a little bit, we're living on 45 acres in an RV, doing our ranch stuff, doing our dog stuff, and then you decide to focus on your business and grow it. You wanted to grow it into a huge successful business, and then you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then what happened after that?
So I actually read Rich Dad Poor Dad prior to that. So when I did the transition from just going to do the dog stuff full time to the transition of I'm going to grow my business, my landscaping and tree service business. So that's in between those is when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I just realized I'm like, if we try to make a living with just the dog stuff, it's going to be a lot tougher living. It's going to be hard to get the nicer things in life, any of the nicer things. So that's when I decided to focus on this business and grow that business.
Okay.
And my first initial thoughts were, I need to learn how to invest in the stock market, because that's a lot of what Robert Kiyosaki talks about. And because I didn't know anything about real estate, and I'm like, I don't got any credit. So how can I go buy properties? So I started.
Was it in that book where you heard that to like buy, was that the book where you go buy an investment property, or was that a later book?
So that was later podcasts and stuff that I listened to. So I listened to a lot of podcasts, but during that year that we was building that business, I listened to a lot of lot of podcasts.
So why, to back up a little bit to your stock market thing, did you ever do that?
I never did invest in the stock market itself because for me, I wanted something I could touch, something I could actually see versus just numbers. So I knew I wanted to invest in real estate, but I didn't know how I wanted to invest in real estate. I didn't know how I could invest in real estate. I knew I wanted to, but I didn't know how that ever become a reality. So for me, I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of Bigger Pockets podcasts, and anybody that knows much about real estate, they've probably heard of it. The problem was, and it taught me a lot about it, and I read books. It taught me a lot about investing, but everything that they were saying was save up 25%, go buy a rental property, live in it for a year, rent it out, or save up 3.5%, go get an FHA loan on a property, rent it out for it, live there for a year, then rent it out, go buy it, get another FHA loan with another 3.5% down, and just keep doing that. And they said within 10 years, you should be able to have 10 properties. The problem for me was I up until that point, I had never had any credit of any sort, no credit card, no bank loan, no nothing. So that it just seemed so hopeless for me in that time. But I'm like, well, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give up. I'm just going to keep listening to this stuff while I'm working.
And we ended up getting a couple credit cards. We're like, okay, we're gonna start working on building our credit, I guess. That was different because up until that point, I'd have been a no.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I was almost religious about it.
Yeah. But I never, even though we did that with our own property, we bought it without using any banks.
Yeah.
I just never thought I could do that with an investment property.
Yeah, and so those of our listeners who may not know like what owner finance is or seller finance, and that's how we bought our 45 acres from Rex's brother.
And we can go into, we can break that down on
but basically it's just where the owner finances the property to you, so you don't have to go get a loan or whatever. They're basically carrying the loan for you.
Yep. You make payments to them.
So that's how we got it without using any bank or credit or anything.
Yep. So I even though it seemed so impossible to get rental properties and real estate just because of all it entailed, I didn't give up. I didn't give up. I kept listening. I kept educating myself, and I kept working on it. I went and looked at some properties, and even though I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to buy these properties, they were some fixer-up homes, but I'm like, I don't know how we can buy these, but I want to buy them. So I just did a lot of that. And then towards the end of that year, the end of the year that I decided to build the landscaping business, towards the end of that year, one of my other brothers sent me a video of a guy that he ran across on YouTube. And he's like, you just got to listen to this. You just have to listen to this guy. This guy just knows stuff. So he sent me the video over finally, and I sat down and I started watching it. And you know what I was like when I started watching it. My mind was blown. Like the things he was saying in there, I'm like, why did I not know this sooner? I would have been buying real estate for years now if I'd have known this. And you know what I was like.
It was a video meant for people like me and Rex, just people that needed creative ways to buy real estate. You know, we needed it simplified. We needed it so that it was achievable for us to achieve. We needed it to give us hope that we could actually build something for our family and build something for us now. And it was really, truly an answer to prayer, I would say, because we were just feeling really hopeless just because it just was it's going to take forever. It's going to take forever to get these investment properties into them, and we'll probably never really see the fruit of that in our lifetime. And you know, we're a younger couple, and we wanted to have our own huge ranch up in the mountains and actually be able to spend time with our kids and build time as a family. And that video it was a huge answer to prayer.
It truly was.
It was like, this is what God wants us to do. This is the tool he has given us to build our vision for a family.
Yeah, it just, that video just has changed our lives. That was a huge turning point in changing our lives. You know, prior to that video, prior to me seeing that video a little bit, you know, you made the decision to sell one of your best dogs, you know, the one you won so much stuff with, and so much. Then that was a huge decision for you to make and go through. But you're like, I can build it back. I can get that back. And when I came across these videos, I'm like, this, I can do this. This is achievable. And so I just buried myself in it for the next couple months. And my work was slower at the time, so I could just
I think it was during the winter, right? So
November, December, and I just buried myself in it. And the video was a video of Pace Morby, and he has a mentorship community thing that's called Sub 2. And I wanted to join that. But I didn't want to join that. For me, I had never paid for a mentorship before. I never really paid for someone to show me how to train a dog. I just figured it out on my own, and I became successful at it. So for me, I'm like, I don't need to pay for someone to show me how to do this. I'll just go figure it out on my own. Even though I knew I needed help. I couldn't do this on my own.
You know, because there wasn't a community, you know, like even with the dogs, we had a community of people, we had a community of friends. They helped us out a lot. But we didn't know anybody doing real estate. Like, it was just completely foreign.
In the real estate, yeah, there was no community here local to us. And I didn't know where I could go to find a community of people that would actually help us out, or
And
we could help them out.
And I was really and I was encouraging you to get the mentorship, because I had recently gone through a mentorship for just my health, and it was absolutely life-changing. And that was where I started to see like the power of having a mentor and a community around you. And so I was really encouraging you to do it, but I know it took
it took me a bit, and part of it was it costed money to get into it. I think it costed $8,800 to get into this mentorship community. And I'm like, I'll just do it on my own. But I knew I felt like I just kept running into brick walls. And I'm like, I need a community. I need people that are doing this, you know, not trying to just do it completely on my own. But the trouble is we didn't have the extra money to go pay $8,800 to join a mentorship, a community. We just didn't have it. It was our slower season. We had our money saved away to get us through the winter, but I didn't have the money. So I talked to the guy, and we ended up seller financing that. So I got into the community, into this program, by just making payments to them on it.
Yeah, just got creative, right? And that was really cool. And like, we could go into so much detail about that whole process, but that's the hard part. Is this is bringing back so many memories, and you know, to walk you guys through that whole process
Yeah.
that we could go into a lot of detail, but we really need to save that for more episodes. But
It was, yeah, and what by joining that community, that's really just what changed it. I did a lot of stuff. I didn't do much, but really the biggest struggle I had was mindset. My mindset was in a place of, this is impossible. This will never work. This is going to take for years to do this. So that was the biggest hurdle to overcome. We kind of fast forward a few months. I took a break from the real estate stuff, just worked on my mindset. Fast forward in May, we closed our first investment property, and I was still running a tree service business, and we were still living in an RV.
I was pregnant again.
Yep. And then around June, July, we decided to make,
And this was last year.
this was last June, July of 2023. We talked it over a little bit, but we decided we're going to make the decision to sell everything we had.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to sell the ranch. We're going to sell the horses. We're going to sell the dogs. We're going to sell the tree service business.
Oh, and we had like 100+ head of sheep too.
We raised a lot of sheep. So we just made the decision we're going to sell everything. And that was the 1st of June. That was the 1st of June. And we said, by the 1st of September or by the end of August, we will have everything sold and we will have moved to town.
And I was due like the second week of September, so
yeah. So that decision, it was a hard decision to come to, but when we came to it, it was so good to just make a decision and give ourselves a timeline on that decision.
Yeah. And there's a lot of detail surrounding that huge story, but we made it happen. We bought, when did we buy this house that we're in? Was it
we closed on this house that we're in August 7th. The birthday, my 25th birthday, is when we closed on the property and when we moved in. So when we made that decision in the 1st of June, we started working. We're like, what do we need to do to get to this point by now?
We had to sell off a lot of stuff.
So we just started working to that, and we got into a place. We sold stuff off about a month sooner than what we was planning to, what our deadline was, which was a huge change. You know, we now live in town, and I've never lived in town before. So that was a huge change. Tell me a little bit what your experience
and
was.
something I want to insert is a huge thing of you guys are, I'm sure going to want to hear more about in detail this decision we came to, but a huge reason why we came to that decision is we wanted to make our business, our lifestyle, and basically just completely incorporate the two, because we love doing stuff together as a family. We're very passionate about that. It's really where we both find our fulfillment, and we both just complement each other really well. And so, Rex was working. He was gone all day working really hard on his business. I was home taking care of the dogs and training the dogs. And then I also had the kids. I had McKady and I was pregnant. And that was really tough. That was really tough. And I felt like we both felt like we were on opposite pages. So just a blurb in there of that's, we decided we would just get on the same page and go do this all together. And so it was a huge transition. There's a lot of little details, but it was good. I was excited about it. Like I was fully on board. I was kind of the one who came up with the idea or threw it. Rex initially threw it out there as a joke, but I was the one who was like, I've thought about it and I would actually be excited to do that. And I could see the benefit it would have for us. So I was very excited about it. I was very excited to get in the house. I was pregnant. I wanted to get in the house before the baby was born. And I was excited for a change, and I was excited because I knew God was doing stuff in our life and where He would take us, and just having to really trust Him. That was really good for our faith, and we did that.
Yeah, there's a lot of details through that process. It was, things that we expected to happen, things that didn't happen, and it was some tough times. Just we had our expectations here, and things didn't happen, and it was something to really, we had to work through. We really had to trust God in it. We really had to just have faith in what He was directing us to do.
Mm-hmm.
And
And realize that just because hard times came on, that doesn't mean God doesn't want you to do something. That just means He's growing you.
and that's the thing, that's a big thing I've learned is be thankful for the hard times, because those hard times are what got us to where we are today.
Yes.
When you go through hard times, your mind expands. Your mind can either expand or your mind can shrink. So for us, our minds expanded and expanded, and they just can't go back to where they was once they do expand.
And so we moved from Weiser, Idaho to Namp, Idaho, back to Rex's hometown. Of course, it's a lot bigger town now. It's more like a city. It's not very far from Boise, which is the capital of Idaho, and we moved into a subdivision. And we went full time into real estate, both of us. And ever since then, we would have bought 7 properties total as of this podcast.
Yeah.
We have, how many do we have in escrow right now?
2 more in escrow right now.
Yep. And how many millions of dollars does all that value add up to?
I believe to date we bought over $4 million worth of real estate. And the cool thing is we bought all of it with no banks involved.
Mm-hmm.
No banks, no credit check. No one's ever pulled my credit to buy one of these properties.
No credentials.
I've never used any of my tax returns or anything to buy one of these properties. We've done it 100% without any banks involved.
Yeah. And on some we have used our own money, but we've started, utilizing the art of
private money,
Yeah.
So we buy properties now without using any of our own money. We'll buy the property with someone else's money.
And it's just because me and Rex, fundamentally, we want to make a difference in people's lives. Our goal is to help as many people as possible. Our goal is to help thousands, millions of people. We want to be able to have the resources to do that. And so that was just we realized it was just another opportunity to help people. You can get selfish and be like, no, I'm just going to use my own money. I just want all of this for myself. And we realized that was an opportunity we were keeping from other people, because the people we work with are friends, people we've never met, friends, and then also people we've never met. They're now, they get to invest their money in real estate, and now they are where we wanted to be, where their money is working for them.
Yeah, we basically we created a safe place for people to invest their money. People don't have to have millions of dollars to invest it. We created opportunity and a safe place for people to invest smaller amounts of money.
So, and really, like, the vision is for people like me and Rex. We had some money that we could have invested back when we were on our acreage and living there. But most times when you hear about investing into something, especially real estate, you need a lot of money, and we didn't have that. And so it was really just an opportunity for us to create something for people like us to invest in and get their money working for them, and just start with that step.
Yeah, that was one of our decisions with the real estate. Was we wanted more opportunities to help more people out. We wanted to be able to help more people out, and that's what we've been able to accomplish. We're very thankful for the opportunities that we've had to help people out. And we're just very thankful for the times. It hasn't been an easy struggle, or it hasn't been an easy, it's been a struggle at times getting to this point. Things come up, things happen, you end up losing money here, you end up losing money there, someone walks away with your money on this project. It's just been a lot of learning. But something that we're so thankful for is we have had the opportunity to learn things that most people will never get the opportunity to learn.
We're just thankful that we can be in this position to learn those things, even though they're really painful when we're going through them. We're just thankful that, yeah, we have the opportunity to experience them and grow from them, and that God has put us in those situations.
100%. Our vision, that we have now is to become the number one temporary housing provider in the state of Idaho. So,
And, some of our listeners are going to be wondering like what that is and stuff, but we can go into like more details on our vision. But it is really cool, like where we started just as a young couple without much money and living in an RV. We lived in an RV for 3.5 years and really not making a difference and just wondering how we're going to get by, to now we have the vision of scaling our business and doing something we're really passionate about with our real estate.
And it's been a huge mindset shift too, of even when you go through a tough time, of not of the mindset of how am I going to get out of this, but how is this going to help so many other people out?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really having that mindset shift really changes things for a person.
Yeah, and we're Christians and we believe that everything we do is for the glory of God. So we should do everything to the best of our ability. And as our mindset has grown, we've realized like what that actually means. Like, no, that means you get down, you grind every day. It's the sweat and the tears and the long hours and putting in the work to expand your mindset and work on yourself and really really truly do it to the best of your ability. And that's going to look different in different stages. Like as you're constantly growing, you can constantly do more. But that's really the foundation of why we're doing what we're doing, and why we've been working so hard at it, because we truly believe that is a command we're supposed to honor.
So yeah, and to that point, there is, most people don't do stuff with the best of their ability, and they just don't. And that is definitely an area we have grown in, is doing things to the best of our ability. So just very thankful for those opportunities, and very thankful for the mindset shifts that we have had over the past year, and just extremely grateful for that. And we had to work on it. We had to put time into it. We had to intentionally work on our own mindsets and work on that. And just very thankful for what God has done
Yeah.
through our lives.
Yeah. And also very thankful for our kids. We added our second daughter to our home, our new home. I think we had been living in here for 2 months when I had her, and it's just, yeah, how God has blessed our little family and grown us and what we can now do together. But that we really need to end this. So thank you guys for listening. And if there's something, I know this was a really just generic, fast-paced view of the last several years in our lives and kind of who we are. But if there was something in our story that really stood out to you or touched your heart or made you laugh, let us know like what that was, and we can make future episodes like specifically about that part and go into a lot of detail. But we are gonna go into detail more about different things like that and talk. This episode's gonna be, or this podcast is gonna be about all sorts of things because it's, you know, it's us as a couple doing the podcast. And so it's going to be from family life to real estate to there's probably going to be a few country things thrown in there. We're going to have guests on here. There's a lot of stuff that we do, and so it's going to be arranged. We really just, like I had said, incorporate our whole lifestyle into it.
For us, we really have an integrated life on our work, our family time, our just all of our life. We really strive for an integrated life on it. So I think there'll be a lot of cool stuff we'll end up talking about on here,
and just fun stuff too. You know, we'll share our love story and all the details on that, and share like ins and outs of working as a couple in a business, and you know, both being business partners, but then also married as well, and being parents. And honestly, it's probably gonna be a lot of just like conversations between me and Rex, and you get to sit in on our thoughts.
Yeah, a great way of getting to know us better as business people, as parents, as family people, as Christians, you know, just really trying to be a way to get to know us better.
Yeah.
And we would love to record some episodes on what you guys want to hear. So if you
would
guys
really appreciate the feedback, you know, this is our first episode, so we need some fans to keep us going.
But just, if you guys have something in particular you guys want us to break down more, let us know. And let us know in the comments, and we'll make another episode. We're gonna be doing one a week, so there'll be a lot of stuff to go through, but let us know what you want to hear.
So enjoy your day, have a great week, go out there and kill it, and we will see you on the next episode of REX-Rated.
Oh, and they come unstuck, running down to the